Matt Damon. Oh, God. Matt Damon. Over the past 20 years, Matt Damon's gone from pretty boy wonder to the guy everyone wants to be the boy wonder. For some weird reason, Ben Affleck, they're friends. I don't get it. He's an action hero, an Oscar-winning writer, a red carpet regular, a humanitarian, and he's back in his most famous role this week in Jason Bourne. So we thought we'd take a look back over his career. I'm Alex from Whatculture.com, and his 5 awesome Matt Damon performances, and 5 that sucked. Kicking things off with the awesome performances, number 5, Will Hunting, Good Will Hunting. If you're wanting to break big in Hollywood, you can do a lot worse than making a movie where you go up alongside one of the biggest men in the business in an Oscar-winning screenplay you wrote with your buddy. It's actually strange that Good Will Hunting worked so well. It's a rather typical story, but that it succeeds relies heavily on the 2 central actors. Williams was Williams and deserves the usual praise, but as good old Will, Damon shows effortless emotional intelligence to match his character's mathematical IQ. Some of the best moments are the silent bits where you can see the conflict bubbling away. He also reprised the role for Good Will Hunting 2, Hunting Season, which despite clearly being for the money, proved to be a thrilling action experience.
It's hunting season. Applesauce, bitch.
Number 4, James Ryan, Saving Private Ryan. The part of Private Ryan in Saving Private Ryan is a lot harder than it would first seem watching the film. Not only the title character, but the object of the entire first 2 acts. When you finally see him, so much needs to be conveyed in a short period of time. His love for his dead brothers, his sense of duty, and the internal conflict that creates. Now, it was helped that Damon was on the poster so people knew who to expect at the end of the line, but there's no avoiding that the entire emotional payoff of the film rests on his shoulders, and he just pulls it off, hitting the emotional beats perfectly and laying the groundwork for that final twist. It could so easily be more narrative function than a full character, but Damon makes it work. Number 3, Colin Sullivan, The Departed. The Departed is so often overlooked because it was the movie Scorsese won the Oscar for, not Goodfellas, or Taxi Driver, or Raging Bull, or The Aviator, or Gangs of New York, or The King of Comedy. But that misses that it's still a great movie from a great director. And he gets some great performances out of his very impressive cast. You obviously have Nicholson going full Nicholson and Wahlberg going full Wahlberg, but as the movie's rat, Damon's an unnerving, calm counterpoint to DiCaprio's manic cap. The real meat's saved for the final scenes. How pathetic he is when beaten down by Leo, and that final acceptance as Wahlberg blasts him away. Just cut away before your mate can scream, "The red symbolizes obviousness!" Number 2, Mark Watney, The Martian. In 2004, we saw Damon play an incredibly super serious astronaut who let isolation drive him insane. Just a year later, Ridley Scott, a director who hadn't hit it out of the park since 2000, flipped it. The Martian saw Damon again isolated on a planet, but power through it with the power of comedy. Contrary to other sci-fi heroes where you tend to feel for them in whatever crazy situation they're in, you actually like Mark Watney as a person. He has a delightful mix of scientific aptitude and aware, self-deprecating humour that made The Martian a surprisingly refreshing sci-fi in a time when everything was incredibly dour. Not that that's enough to class the movie as a comedy though. Number 1, Jason Bourne, The Bourne series. By the time Ultimatum came around, the plot of Bourne was so twisty and random it threatened to collapse in under itself. That it didn't is testament to 2 things: Paul Greengrass's intense shaky cam shooting style, and Matt Damon's frantic amnesiac hero. Bourne made Damon a superstar thanks to the way he handled the confused emotion and the brutish fights, an incredibly real spy in an incredibly contemporary setting. You can bet if he'd returned for Legacy, it would have instantly been made twice as good. The series proved so influential that for the next 5 years or so, you couldn't do an action movie without having the camera shake incessantly. Even James Bond got into the act. But like Bourne, we try to forget that. And speaking of things we'd like to forget, here's 5 less than thrilling performances from Matt Damon. Number 5, Tom Ripley, The Talented Mr. Ripley. I know what you're thinking. The Talented Mr. Ripley? Isn't that meant to be one of Damon's highlights? And yeah, it's not a bad film. It's just not really Ripley. Rather than Patricia Highsmith's neurotic, asexual sociopath, Damon's Tom is much more clear-cut, both in mentality and sexuality, and it makes him a lot less interesting as an anti-hero to unpack and a much more obvious threat. Fundamentally, he's hard to like. You need to on some level relate with this character, otherwise his misdeeds lose you. Watch the Italian Purple Noon or even the John Malkovich version to get a taste of the real Ripley. Damon just didn't get it. Number 4, Max da Costa, Elysium. You can see why Matt Damon made Elysium. Neil Blomkamp's first film, District 9, took obvious apartheid allegory and made it into a smart, affecting cautionary tale with FPS action that got nominated for Best Picture. Seriously, check it out. He followed it up with a film so disappointing, the director actually admitted he didn't really have an idea for the film aside from having a big circle in the sky. Because we've never seen that before. It turns out that Blomkamp can't really get a good performance out of anyone who isn't Charlotte Copley. Damon's working schmo cum hero spends most of the film looking deathly serious, the other half panting and being seriously deathly. And he never makes you care about him in the same way we cared about Vickers. Number 3, Linus Caldwell, Ocean's 12. It's very easy to dislike Matt Damon in this disappointing caper follow-up because he's the one who comes up with the ridiculous idea of having Julia Roberts' character pose as Julia Roberts, leading to one of the most perplexing film scenes of the millennium. And then later on, he has to go get his mummy to come help out with the big twist. What a waste of a character. But there's more to it than that. Because he was the newbie in the first film, where he is good, by the way, Linus has to be in the training up phase in this one, so Damon spends most of the time gawping and getting exasperated. The whole movie feels like it was on Euro holiday autopilot since the concept phase, but Damon shows this more than most. Number 2, Kale, Titan AE. There's an obsession with getting big names in animated films, but it's pointless if the actor isn't engaged with the character. Pixar consistently get this, but so many others just let the name on the poster be the entire job. Just listen to Matt Damon in Titan AE. He reads his lines without a care for context and incredibly matter-of-factly, whether it's about the fate of humanity or a cheap quip. Despite being the main guy, he clearly doesn't care, so why should we? It's such a shame because the film looks great, and the 3028 setting and the terraforming is a great concept to riff on, but the cast, led by Damon, just don't sell it. Number 1, John Grady Cole, All the Pretty Horses. Cormac McCarthy's a powerhouse of modern American fiction, and there's been several amazing films made of his complex work. But just as I can't seem to get through the Border trilogy in print, it's just so heavy. Neither can Hollywood seem to adapt it. Billy Bob Thornton's adaptation of the first book is a trawl, a bland romance film with nothing more than kinda pretty scenery to draw you in. And no, that's not the meaning behind the title. Damon's a key part of this tepidness. His accent isn't atrocious, but boy is it grating. And in his pretty boy, no, still not the meaning, pre-born phase, he looks lost. He's not meant to be a fountain of charisma in this part, but neither should he be a vacuum. And there you have our list. What's your favourite Matt Damon performance? What's your least favourite? Let us know down in the comments. Be sure to subscribe for more great film content, and you can follow me on Twitter here. I'll see you soon.